Project Hail Mary is one of the best examples of grounded science fiction ever created, and a big part of its excellence is the lovable alien engineer known as Rocky, a truly fascinating example of speculative biology. I am currently in a master's program in cellular biology, and today I'll be covering pretty much everything we know about Rocky and his species, the Eridians. I'll specifically be going off of the information we receive in the book, as while the movie is a great and very faithful adaptation, a lot of the details found in the book had to be cut for the shorter runtime. So, let's get started.
I am Rocky. I like.
The best place to begin when attempting to understand the biology of an organism is to first look at its environment, and Rocky's homeworld could not be more extreme. First off, it is the closest planet to its star, equivalent to Mercury in our solar system. But unlike Mercury, Erd is much larger than Earth, with approximately 2 times the mass, and has an incredibly thick atmosphere comprised primarily of ammonia. What this translates to is a punishing gravity and an even more dangerous atmospheric pressure. A human standing on this planet would simultaneously be crushed by the intense pressure, equivalent to 28 of our atmospheres, and cooked by its 210 degrees Celsius surface temperature, or 410 degrees Fahrenheit for you Americans. To survive in such extreme conditions, Eridians have a combination of extremely interesting adaptations. They have a radially symmetric pentagonal body plan, kind of like a sea star, with 5 sturdy legs to support themselves in heavy gravity. Each one of these 5 appendages are identical, and so can act as either an arm or a leg when necessary, although Rocky typically uses 3 to move around and 2 as arms at one time. The stone-like exoskeleton from which Rocky's name stems is actually the most unique aspect of Eridian biology. It is not made out of cells, but oxidized minerals and metals. While we do have some dead material, such as our fingernails, hair, and outermost layer of skin, this only makes up a very small percentage of our total body weight. Eridians, on the other hand, are almost entirely made out of inorganic material. Out of their nearly 400 kilogram body weight, only about 1 kilogram is actually organic material. And that's a lot of weight to move around for an animal barely bigger than a Labrador retriever. The analogy used by the book is that Eridians are like if a beehive learned how to walk, and the queen learned how to do advanced calculus. Their blood is primarily liquid mercury, which serves as heat regulation and a transport method for worker cells around the body. They also have 2 separate circulatory systems, an ambient system, which contains blood the same temperature as Erd air, 210 degrees Celsius as a reminder, and a hot system kept at 305 degrees Celsius. The cells can only survive in the ambient system. The reason why this dual system is so important is because Eridian movement is actually steam-powered. Because the pressure of Erd is so much higher than Earth, the boiling point of water is also increased. There's a small amount of liquid water stored within the spongy muscle tissue of each limb, and in order to move it, the ambient system blood vessels are constricted, and the hot vessels are dilated, which increases the temperature of the muscles, leading the water to boil and become steam, expanding this tissue and moving the leg, kind of like a pressure piston. Eridians have 5 hearts to pump this blood, 1 near each leg, which makes sense when you consider their mercury-based blood is roughly 14 times heavier than ours. This process is obviously extremely fine-tuned to allow for complex motor tasks, but in addition to these large muscle analogs, they also have micromuscle controlled by the piezoelectric effect, which is the ability of some materials to generate electrical charge when subject to stress. These micromuscles are required to control the vessels of the hot circulatory system, in which worker cells cannot survive or signal to. On the end of each limb, Eridians have 3 claw-like fingers which can be used for all manner of advanced engineering like we see in the movie. Since heat control is so important to their biology, Eridians also have heat radiators on their carapace to ensure their ambient circulatory system maintains the correct temperature. Eridians also technically breathe through vents, but this is not for gas exchange like our respiratory system, but instead is also involved in heat control. Ammonia is pushed over hot tissues to cool them down. The normal temperature and pressure of an Eridian is so intense that when Rocky risks combustible, oxygen-rich human air to save his friend, he actually lights on fire. So, now that we've covered Rocky's basic biology, let's move on to his sensory abilities and brain. Due to its extremely dense atmosphere and powerful magnetic field, the planet Erd is in a constant state of darkness. As a result, Eridians never evolved eyes or any other means of detecting light, and instead navigated their environment using only sound. Their bodies are covered in extremely sensitive auditory organs, hundreds of them, which allow them to see the world around them through a process similar to echolocation, although far more sensitive. The ambient sound within a room is enough for them to create a clear picture, but if it's too quiet, they can simply tap one of their appendages against a surface. They can also detect far higher and lower frequencies of sound than a human ear can. Because their auditory organs are equally spaced out around their body, they don't have a front and back like we do. They communicate through a type of song, similar to whale song, which layers tones and notes on top of one another to create a complex language.
That's not bad.
Because their language is layered in this way, it is about 6 times as information dense as human language, meaning that a human will only convey 1/6 of the information in a given time period as an Eridian can. Despite this, their mental processing speed and intelligence is actually similar to a human, with the exception of their mathematical abilities, which far exceeds ours. Despite being a spacefaring civilization, Eridians haven't even invented computers, and do all of the necessary calculations solely in their heads. They are also extremely social creatures, and undergo an extremely unique process known as thrumming, in which a large group of Eridians all speak about a complex problem at once, with each individual acting like a single neural processing unit within a super intelligent brain. The more Eridians join in, the better the collective mind is able to process the problem. It's halfway between a conference and a eusocial hive mind. The likely evolutionary basis for their social behavior is that their sleep is far deeper than ours, leaving them extremely vulnerable. All of their brain function shuts off, and they cannot be roused no matter what happens, as their body undergoes internal maintenance. Because of this, there's a strong culture of watching over one another when Eridians sleep. The species also sleeps after eating, which fuels this maintenance. They seem to eat some form of meat, which is dense in both proteins and heavy metals, but I won't discuss it more than this, as it's considered very impolite in Eridian culture. And it's always very important to respect other cultures, even if you don't fully understand them. The final aspect I want to talk about is reproduction. Eridians are all hermaphrodites, but lay eggs in clutches with other individuals, which is considered mating. These eggs fuse together and eventually create a new Eridian, which carries on its parents' worker cells, kind of like genes. This species has an incredibly long lifespan of around 700 Earth years, and one of the craziest reveals in the book is that Rocky has been alone in the astrophage home system for longer than Grace has even been alive. And that's where I'll leave it for today. This is definitely a different type of video for me, so if you enjoyed and want to see more, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And, as always, I hope to see you next time.